From day one, we are told who we should be, how to live, and what's acceptable. Before we even have a chance to discover ourselves, our society has already drawn those lines for us. But what happens when those lines are keeping us from knowing and embracing who we truly are? Welcome to Unbox Yourself with Samantha Fox, a podcast about unpacking and unlearning everything that's kept you from living as your true self. Through honest conversations about your internal emotional landscape, sexuality, coming out later in life, relationships, and the journey to self-acceptance, we break free from the boxes we never chose. Hello and welcome to the show this week. I am joined by a young woman named Emily. Emily and I met in 2022 when she was looking for some help around her sexuality, and she found me on Google. We worked together for about a year and a half, and it's now been almost 3 years since we met, and Emily's life has completely transformed. She is a brave, courageous woman that put so much time and energy into unpacking, unlearning, and really unleashing her authentic self, which is who she is today. But she had a lot to unpack because she grew up in an extremely religious family and community and had learned to really disconnect deeply from her truth and from who she was at the core, and live a life where the outside world basically tells you who you're supposed to be and who you should be. Here she is telling her entire story less than 3 years from when we first met, and she has completely transformed her life. I mean, this is just so moving to me. So welcome to Emily's story, and thank you so much for being here. Okay. Hi, Emily. It is so nice to see you. It's been quite some time since I've actually seen your face and also since we've spoken. So first of all, I am so proud of your bravery and your courage and of what you have overcome to be where you are today, which is really living in your full authenticity, which I know took a lot of work on your behalf. And I wanted to invite you to share about your journey, which has to do with, religious background, influences and beliefs and teachings and parenting and what you learned. I'm so glad to see you. And I think you're such a superstar for everything that you've been through and where you are today. So yeah, I would love you to share your story.
Yeah, well, thank you for all of your kind words. You have been a huge part of helping me to get to where I am today. So, right back at you. I just appreciate you so much. Yeah, so I guess I can kind of explain some of the beginning pieces and growing up in, that religious circle. For me, I grew up in a conservative state, in a conservative family. I live in Seattle now, but growing up in that context, and then also my parents being very heavily involved in a conservative Christian church. And in particular, I think it's helpful to name the kind of white evangelical, not that everybody in that church is white, but the framework of, that belief system, how it started, where it comes from is very much from, white kind of roots. So for people who are listening to this, I think they can kind of understand and relate if they hear evangelical Christian conservative, church. But I kind of think of it as sort of similar to being a pastor's kid, because my parents were both in leadership roles, although anytime a woman in that world is in a leadership role, it's not actually identified as a leadership role because women aren't supposed to be leading men. So they can be leaders over, women. But basically, both of them were in leadership roles. best friends with the pastor's wife, like kind of these more like public figures. And so everybody knew us, everybody knew our family. I mean, this is like a giant church it's a mega church. So like thousands of people. And then, more context, my mom has always been involved in really big advocacy around, pro-life, everything with pro-life organization. So I say that because there's also that contextual piece where that tends to mean that she's working really closely with people who are also fighting gay rights. And so very explicitly like anti-LGBTQ, even if that's not what she's saying, that's who she's often working with. So anyways, that's all kind of the context. In particular, growing up in the Christian world in the 90s, there's like kind of a certain flavor to that. So for me, in my story, there's some overlap where, the church kind of had its own culture and its own influence in our family culture, but then also some of the like kind of harmful pieces in my childhood and in my childhood trauma kind of would sort of coincide with some of that. And I would say some of that Christian culture could like enable some of it, so that it would almost allow for more like narcissism and abuse to sort of exist and be denied or be explained away in different ways. With that, there's like, certain trends and like parenting at the time in the Christian circles had some really like problematic, takes on discipline and forms of discipline and stuff like that. And so then I think that could kind of be used and then also help enable and deny any actual abuse that was happening and stuff like that. So it gets really complicated and confusing, and as a kid very confusing because so much of it is done in the name of God. And you're taught that. For me, it was like, your dad is the most godly man, this amazing person, all of these things, and then these things are happening. It's very confusing.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
mixed messages.
Yeah. And I mean, and it sounds like a lot of trauma.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I think there's like, then for me and my like predisposition, I'm already kind of more of a rule follower. I'm kind of more of a like for me, like responsibility is really, a high value. Being a person of integrity is a high value. But then I think being also in the Christian world, then it was even more like, this is how you be a good person. Like, don't be a bad person. Don't be a sinner. Don't do, all these messages around morality that kind of played into that. And then combined with that, like learning that it was safer in my family and in my situation to not create waves, be the good kid, be the perfectionist, do what they want, follow what's expected. So that then it was like, essentially like, I'm going to be the good Christian girl. And that's, then really kept me very like kind of confined and like in this, path of a narrow sort of way forward, if that makes sense.
And like what I hear in that is also just everything about who you are as you're developing into your personhood is externally oriented. It's all other oriented. Like it's at every step of the way. It's not about connecting to what you're feeling, but connecting to what you've been taught is either right or wrong from the outside, not what feels right for you. So it's like, just move away from yourself more and more and more and more.
Yes, totally. Totally. Like, move away from yourself more and more. Do what's going to be the safest. Also, do what's going to keep you from going to hell, which from like my earliest memory, I was taught hell is a literal place of fire and burning and eternal suffering. that we're all damned to unless we
Do
are
all of that.
doing those things and accepting, God as our, Jesus as our savior, all these things. So like there is this very early on, this like serious fear of, oh my God, what if I accidentally end up in hell? Like, what if I don't even know it, but I didn't do the right thing or I didn't say the right words or whatever, and I will literally burn forever. Like, that sounds so scary as a 4-year-old,
Yeah,
It's wild.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I also think it's very genius the timing of which they present this information to humans,
Mm-hmm.
which is when you
Yeah.
are like 2, 3, 4, 5, and
Yeah.
these things are so terrifying and you have no reality testing that you can do
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah.
any tools.
Yeah.
So it's in a way, it's like if that's what you're taught, then of course you're going to believe that.
Totally. Yeah. And I think, I mean, maybe it's helpful to name, I'm a therapist now, but like, I think of Dan Siegel talks about like, it's safer for a kid to think I am bad versus my parent is bad
Yes.
for survival, obviously. And so I think it like plays into that even more, where then it's like,
Hmm.
if I'm feeling something incongruent, if I'm feeling confusion, if I'm feeling like something that just happened doesn't make any sense and like I was treated in a way that doesn't make sense, it must be me. There must be something
Yeah.
wrong with me.
Yeah.
And I'm wrong versus anything else. It's very authoritarian, like, the pastor says what's right, your parents take that as word. They don't really think for themselves either, to be honest. And then same gets passed to you.
Yeah. So I had religion in like a cultural way, but that was it.
Yeah.
So to me, it feels like growing up just in like a brainwashing cycle
Mhm. Yeah.
from where I stand.
Hmm.
There is no way out of that if you're born into that. There is no way out of that until you're adult enough
Hmm.
to possibly even think outside of that because that's just the norm.
Hmm. Right. Totally. Yeah. And then I think too, there's like, we could talk about the whole like what it means to be a good Christian, and like what's involved with that, part of that being purity culture. So
Mm,
then from really early on, you're taught this purity culture stuff, which in the 90s, this is wild. It was like, I mean, obviously like no sex before marriage, obviously. But there was also this trend that was like, it's people who grew up in it will know, but like this guy wrote this book at like, I think he was like 19 when he wrote it, like didn't even have a fully developed brain, but like wrote this book, I Kissed Dating Goodbye. And it was this whole premise of like, this is how Christians should approach relationships and marriage. And the concept is no dating, only courting, nothing, no kissing, no nothing before marriage, no time alone before marriage. It was like you only are like with your families and like all this stuff, like very, very like strong kind of
it's like
approach to purity culture.
isolate yourself essentially.
Yeah, get married as young as you can, basically, too.
Mm,
Because also teenagers, they're like wanting to have sex. So a lot of people get married so they could have sex. But anyway, like he has since come out and denounced it. He has since come out and said, I've had kids now and I see how problematic that was. And like he's completely like changed his worldview, which is I
mm,
think very interesting. But that was such a huge piece. So I have older siblings and a younger sibling. So I kind of had like things to watch and then make choices around. So for me, like I would say my parents tried a lot of, different things and different levels of strictness with my siblings that then I kind of observed. So, like, one of my siblings, ended up having a pregnancy outside of wedlock. And that was like the biggest tragedy. It was like the biggest deal at the time and was like, to me, from my perspective, was like rocked our family, rocked my parents, rocked their marriage, like felt like it was like such a big disruptor. And I think a huge part of it was the public piece of it and how it looked. But also for me was like, holy shit, like I'm going to note that this is a really big, like, this is a big deal with really big impacts. And to the degree that like we may not be okay. So then even more like, be the good kid, don't do anything wrong, like, stay the course. They ended up getting convinced to get married because that's how you make it right. They have obviously since divorced. That didn't work out. But like that happened. And then I also witnessed other situations of just like normal teenage behavior and then like really pretty severe repercussions and severe punishment. And so more messaging of like, be the good kid, don't do anything wrong, don't create any waves. That didn't always work. Like there would still be, blow ups and repercussions and all of these things when I even was doing things right. But that was like not about me. But with that, it was like fit right into the like ability for me to deny anything related to my sexuality. So I then was, I vowed to not have premarital sex. I vowed to not like do any exploration, any kind of experimentation, nothing like that. And the funny thing is now I'm like, I remember thinking like, why is it so hard for people to not have sex? Like, just don't do it. It's causing drama. Like, it's a big deal. Like, just don't do it. And now looking back, it's like, oh, well, I was also gay. So it was like pretty easy for me to like not want to have sex with my boyfriend. But at the time, it just felt like this is only causing problems. Like, follow the rules, stay with it. So I followed the script. I mean, I did all the right things. We only had abstinence only education, no sex education at all. So of course, then a lot of things would happen. Like people would get pregnant, people would get, have STD, like all of this stuff would happen because no one had any education. But for me, I was like, okay, I'll follow like whatever the script is of like date the person that everyone else says is cute, like date the quarterback, date the guy in the band, like follow the script and very like you were kind of speaking to this earlier, like the top down kind of like from a head perspective, decide on attraction or decide on the dating piece and what that looks like versus like the bottom up, like who am I actually drawn to? What is my body telling me? What am I learning about myself and what I want or like or anything like that? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a real lifetime of that, it sounds like.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, I remember I remember when we first started working together, you would share with me about how you thought everybody, like you knew you had some kind of
Hmm.
attraction to girls, but you just figured that that's how everybody felt.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I feel like I I cut off so much early on around like my sexuality and all of that. But then I would have all of these experiences of, like everything you hear people coming out late say, like watching movies and you're looking at the woman in the sex scene or what, think when you're, if you ever let yourself think about anything sexual, which was also a sin and was bad, if I did, it was involving women. And so there was like a piece of me that was like, that all is bad. And it's all bad because it's anything, outside of like the purity culture stuff, but also like don't even get close to thinking that it's anything around like sexual orientation, just more like that's what everyone thinks. Everybody thinks that way. All women, all girls think that that's just bad sex stuff, basically.
Yeah.
Um, and then I think that just carried on like through into when I was working with you, like up till when I was working with you, where it was like, all women think this, like, this is just how all women are. It's our brains are different. We think differently, like I kind of explained it all away because it didn't fit with everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was, I just have to say,
Mhm.
less than 3 years ago,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
I
less
love
than
that. I
three
love
years
it.
ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I remember there being points where I was still in my process of like reclaiming my truth and all of that, and points where you were like you're gay. Like you are gay. And I was like, I don't know. Like maybe I'm like I think this is just how everyone is, and you're like, no, you're gay. Which was
Yeah.
like very relieving and was like, okay, like this is like I what I know is true. And I am like trying to allow space for me to name that kind of thing.
Yes. And I remember we did a lot of work with your gaslighting part.
The gaslighting oh my God, that's like the probably the crux of so much of it for me, because that gaslighting piece started so young. Like it was like I was gaslit in the Christian world. I felt like I was gaslit at home. Like so much of what was happening was being denied or was being named something else. Like so much of that. So then it was like I just like internalized a gaslighter for myself to then, go along with what I've already shared, because it was safer to be like, I'm the crazy one. Like I'm making things up versus actually naming what was happening, and also naming what was happening and then not being believed or not being understood. Like that was a big piece too. It felt like my goodness wouldn't be understood or believed, and that was a piece that came through and was a huge part of my work in
Yeah.
the last like 3 years.
It was certainly what I remember as one of the biggest parts of our work
Mhm.
together, just when we were working one on one. I would love for you to just tell a little bit of your story about how you ended up finding the person that you married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. I grew up I was in that conservative state, in that conservative world. Um, and then was getting to the point where it was, I mean, high school was that was like a whole shit show of all kinds of things going on. But skipping that, like there came a point where it was like, considering what to do after high school. And I just wanted to get out. I wanted to leave. I wanted to get out. I was creating really strong boundaries with my dad and going no contact. And I just wanted to leave that whole world where everyone knew us, everyone knew our business, everything was just felt like such a public display. And I, for whatever reason, was just drawn to Seattle. Didn't even really know Seattle. Didn't even know that Seattle was like super liberal. Like I was such a like naive, little 18-year-old, but I just really wanted to go to Seattle. So I was kind of setting my eyes on Seattle. The interesting thing is my mom's church actually said they would pay for me to go to a Bible college in the area, in the Seattle area. And that was like kind of my ticket. And so at the time, though, I was totally invested. At the time, I was like, yes, Bible college is like the thing for me. Um, Now it's interesting because it's like there's a lot of complexity there. It's a whole other interesting cultural piece. Like I kind of just wait for documentaries to come out about this particular Bible college, but like there's a whole other really interesting realm there of like the Christian culture, and it's kind of honestly just like a fake school. Like you're not
Huh.
getting a real education, and it's kind of going with this framework of like the male pastor is the leader, he's the authority, and then everyone kind of falls under him. So there's not a lot of accountability. it's like there's just this one person who's deciding everything. And then these Bible colleges opened under that same thing.
Oh, wow.
So then all the teachers you're having, a lot of them are people who actually don't have degrees or um, education. And that's not to say that everyone needs to be educated, but there is a piece there that's not very responsible and ethical, I would say. So like you're getting a lot of people's opinions, and you're getting a lot of people's opinions that they got from someone else in the name of it being biblical and in the name of it being Bible based, therefore God based. So, not a lot of questioning, not a lot of exploring things outside of what that is, and a lot of
Mm,
twisting the Bible to fit the person's views and the culture
hmm.
of that church. So, it's
Wow. I
interesting.
never heard that. That's really interesting. I never heard that before.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's a very interesting thing that I could say a lot more about, but this, it's this both and where it's like, you know, weird that I went to this Bible college. It's like this weird experience I had and, was just a continuation of a lot of the things. And also it's what got me out. It's like it happened to be coinciding with like, kind of my ticket out of where I grew up, and then also like some of my lifelong friends and who I would say are like chosen family are people who I met there, and we have all gone through our journeys to come out of that. So
Mm,
it's really interesting. But in that
wow.
in that Bible college,
Wow.
that's where I met my ex-husband. So I met him I met him when I was 18. We didn't date until I was 20. Um, and then we got married. We were married by the time I was 22. Um, it was very much kind of a continuation of the other stuff where I was like I decided I was interested in him versus like feeling attraction to him. He is an amazing human who is so safe, so kind, so has such a good heart. And I think I knew that. I think I saw the goodness of him and the safety. And like honestly, at that point in my life, like I was still doing so much safety seeking from everything I grew up with. So it was like that piece of him being such a like safe, solid human. And and now looking back and now experiencing what I've experienced after coming out, I'm like, oh my God, there was like no body, like bottom up kind of, involvement in that. It was all like cognitive and
Hmm.
just like deciding and choosing. Um,
I mean, and it sounds like you chose very well
yeah.
from your cognitive,
Yeah.
state, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel really thankful for that. I feel really lucky with that.
Hmm.
And like I mean, we got married, we followed the rules. We didn't have any premarital sex. Like we did all the right things. And then, we had like a good relationship. We shared our life together, I think in a really beautiful way. We essentially kind of like grew up more together and evolved into like our identities ourselves to an extent, and like I mean, we were together in total. We had, I think, a 12-year, was it 12 years? 12-year relationship, maybe? Or it might have been
Hmm.
more. I think it might have been 12 years of marriage. So in that though, it's interesting because we were still in that like world, that Christian church world. And then there were pieces that I always struggled with church where like, especially like now being a therapist, knowing I'm an introvert at my core, like having having any kind of social thing that you are obligated to go to on a Sunday morning to me is like a nightmare. Like if it could be anything, you could say like book club, you could say whatever. If it's an obligated Sunday morning thing, it's like that is the last thing I want to do. But there was this like weird piece of like church, you had to go to church. Church was the most important thing. If you didn't go, I always felt like so much anxiety or like guilt because I wouldn't want to go. Like I hated the idea of going to something like that. But it felt again like something wrong with me. Like I need to make my heart right. I need to get right. Something's wrong with me. But he's very extroverted, loves a social outing, loves getting to, meet new people, loves all of that. And so for him, he really like enjoyed it. So I felt like there was this like marital conflict sometimes where it'd be like, I want to sleep in, or like, I'm not going to go tomorrow or whatever. And I would feel so guilty. And he didn't make me feel guilty, but I knew that I was, you know, he wanted me to go with him. And so that's all relevant because when COVID happened, then it was like an external reason we couldn't go. So then it was less of this like, Emily missed it again, or like, me saying like, sorry, I didn't go again. Like he would go by himself and I would just not go. And then when COVID happened, it was like neither of us could go. And then I feel like in a way that kind of like opened up space to then be like the guilt. I mean, it's like you've talked about this, like guilt being an inhibitory emotion, like the guilt and the anxiety could kind of go away and then be like, oh, wait, like what else is there? What else is below the surface now that like I'm not stuck there all the time? And then add to that, like, COVID really highlighting like social justice issues, really highlighting problematic beliefs in, the Christian culture and the church and all of that, which we had already been working through because I had become a therapist. And it's hard to be, when you become a therapist, you open your eyes to so many pieces about systemic, issues and systemic racism, systemic, all kinds of things. So we had already been like working through a lot of those pieces together, but then COVID just like amped it up even more and the divide became even stronger around like, oh, what do other people from our old world think versus what we think? Like we don't agree with these, like a lot more of those conversations that I think created more space. And then also in a way like maybe he caught up a little bit to some of the things that I felt like I had already been facing or thinking about, and that contributed to like creating more safety. I also during that time switched. I completed working with this other amazing therapist that I had been working with to then pursuing working with a therapist who works from a very somatic place, does a lot of body-based work. And so I started working around like my trauma and my childhood and everything from a slightly different angle. And basically I feel like that started to like open pieces up where then I was naming more of my truth around things I experienced in childhood. I was naming more of the reality of things, naming the stuff that had been kind of hidden or denied. And so now the way I would conceptualize it is like I created more, like that all created more safety for more parts of me to come up and for more truths to come up. And eventually for this part about my sexuality to come up. And it was like it literally was like, pop, it's here. Like this is here now. And I was like it like hit me one night where I was like, oh my God, what if I'm not straight? Just like struck me in this moment.
Wow.
I know, which there had been like I had always told my ex-husband like if anything ever happened to you, I'd probably be alone, but if not, I'd be with a woman. And it was like ha 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 ha, like kind of a joke. Or there had been things where I'd be like, if I grew up in today's generation, I'd probably identify as bi or whatever. Like I'd think these things, I'd say these things, but it didn't really need to mean anything. And it was, kind of was like okay to like think of it in that way. It was still kind of, confined. And if it was bi, then it didn't mean like anything about my current life. Um, so that was kind of like there. But then there was that moment where I was like, oh my God, am I living a lie? And that was the first thought I had was, am I living a lie? This is probably some Christian shit where I was like, have I been lying to my husband this whole time? Like that was my first fear.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Which was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my
then,
gosh.
yeah, that's when it kind of things started that part of the journey started. That was 2022.
Oh, that was
That like the
2022.
moment, the moment that kind of hit me like that was in 2022. And I remember like then I told him right away because there was that responsible part of me that's like, be responsible, be good, be ethical. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and he responded so well, and he was so, open and curious and all the things.
So can I just
Yeah.
slow you down for a second? So just because
Yes.
I think this is interesting, maybe for some other people who have similar backgrounds, and are just unable to really access what's true for them.
Yeah.
So when this kind of, um, these truths started to pop up, like these feelings started to pop up,
Yeah.
and then you had to sort of look at them.
Mhm.
Um, had there been, I know we talked about when you were younger and how you were like, yeah, like this is just normal for everybody. Like these
Mhm.
are the things all of us are not supposed to do, and it's the things that all of us do, right? So there was just
Yeah.
this feeling of like everybody likes women.
Mhm.
And this is just one of the sinful things that I cannot be thinking about, right?
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
when you started to do this deeper work, this somatic work and getting into your body, and you
Mhm.
started to feel things and some truth started to pop up, had there been nothing, between those earlier times
Mhm.
and this point in time? Like, had you, I don't know, living in Seattle, had maybe some clients that came in that were queer or were struggling
Mhm.
with their sexuality, or had you ever seen anybody that you were like, ooh, like, I, like, wow, I'm
Mhm.
I'm kind of curious about that person, or like something that surprised you, but you then again might have suppressed. But was there anything in between there?
I now looking back, I can see more of that. Um, but so quick, my like denial part was so quick to like, you know, push it away. But but yeah, things like I mean, continuing with those pieces of like, um, if I saw anything on TV or if there were things in that realm where it was like kind of the fantasy in the fantasy land. It was like women. And then I would say like I would have like weird interests in people, like having even like maybe in grad school and there being, you know, like another queer woman and being like very like interested and like having this part of me that was like really curious, really interested. Now I would say probably a part of me that was not just curious, but also maybe some attraction or something. Um, and then, yeah, like having, like, I worked with like a decent amount of queer clients and like hearing them talk about their experiences. I remember it's so cute. I had like a younger client, like in adolescence, who was like talking about, and Seattle teens are so, it's like a different world. It's like they're so woke, they're so like open. There's just so much fluidity in Seattle with especially teenagers. And so I remember having this client that was talking about like how she knew she was queer and all these things and how she had a friend who was questioning and she was like, girl, just watch some episodes of Orange is the New Black. You'll know right away. And I would remember being like in that moment thinking it was like so funny and so cute, but also being like, like a part of me would be like, wait, like I I watch Orange is the New Black and I am very like into the like lesbian action that's happening in the show. I'm like, but I'm straight. Like I remember kind of having this like that's not true for everyone, like in my mind, but feeling like it's like, oh, it's more complex than that. Like sexuality is more complex than that kind of thing.
For any of you out there that are listening to Emily's story and resonating with some of the feelings she describes that kept her from really connecting with what her truth was on the inside, please check out my website, unboxyoursexuality.com, where you can find programs and courses that will help you either join in community with other women that are questioning or newly identifying as bisexual, programs you can lead yourself through to unpack, unlearn, and unleash your authentic self, and also new courses that are always being added. The next one is unboxing your queer phobic conditioning. So many ways to work with your system that is keeping you from authentically being who you are. And I just have to say, you've got one time through in this human suit. What are you waiting for?
But it's like I had all of these things that were more like, yeah, but the kind of like natural organic experiences of me and my body compared to what I was thinking and telling myself and,
What you were
believing.
taught.
Yeah.
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 And just because, I'm currently working with a new community I started called the Bi Life.
Yeah.
And this is a community for bisexual women that are, just like exploring what this is all about. Some of them are asking, am I bisexual or am I a
Mm-hmm.
lesbian?
Yeah.
Some of them are pretty sure that they're actually fully lesbian, but married to men who they love dearly.
Mm-hmm.
And others have already left relationships and still identify as bisexual. So, in this awareness that you had, that you mostly denied and pushed down, parts of you did, right? Because it was just not okay, even after you were out of college and whatnot and married. And
Mm-hmm.
even with the Orange is the New Black, it's like, yeah, but that's not me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so curious though, like, in this time that thought, well, maybe I'm bisexual, I'm straight,
Mm-hmm.
but like I do have these feelings on the straight side
Mm-hmm.
that you thought was there.
Yeah.
Like, I know you had very, very intense friendship connections with your spouse at the time, and you still do have a beautiful friendship with.
Mm-hmm.
So this is somebody you grew up with, someone who is a dear person, a safe person, a wonderful person, and you
Yeah.
grew up together. And so you shared so much. And there are many pieces and parts to a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of the pieces of your pie had like all the toppings on them, but in terms of like romance and eroticism and sensuality and sexuality in the relationship, I know you
Mm-hmm.
said it was like there was the head part and not the body part. Was there
Mm-hmm.
ever any, in all that time that you were together for 12 years plus, was there ever any questioning of yourself that was like, why don't I have these feelings? Or did you have those
Mm.
feelings and they went away? Or
Mm.
did you feel very, I know a lot of women feel very valuable and worthy
Mm-hmm.
because they are wanted by a man,
Mm-hmm.
and that those feelings sometimes can get confused with
Mm-hmm.
excitement and attraction
Yeah.
and even desire, because they feel wanted. That
Mm-hmm.
sparks a feeling in them of of wanting more of that, essentially. And this
Yeah.
is like, this is validating who they are as a woman in the world. I am now valuable because a man wants me, right? So I'm just curious, like, in your experience, was any of that present?
Well, so this is where that religious upbringing plays a part in this. So it's because I had like pretty much like no experience. I mean, like, I would like make out with my boyfriends and things in high school and all of that. And I think then there was a lot of that, like, okay, feelings of excitement, feelings of just honestly like some biology, like hormones, like there are some things there that are just gonna, I think, occur in general. But also it was like never past a certain point. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's no like then once it's like sex is bad, sex is bad, sex is bad. And then when you get married, sex is good. You should have it all the time. Like you're supposed to like flip this switch. And so a lot of people end up having all kinds of issues and actually like vaginismus and like, these other like sexual issues come up because their brain can't make that switch, which makes sense. So for me though, I think what happened was it was like cut off. And then it was like this, everyone kind of, it's kind of creepy actually. Everyone kind of talks about it too. Like, oh my God, it's going to be your wedding night. Like, you're going to have sex for the first time. Like, it's this like weird cultural thing that feels kind of gross. And so then there's a lot of like this playing up around it too. So then I
Mm-hmm.
think that probably contributes to this sense of like excitement, maybe. I think I had some anxiety around it. And like had already had people tell me like it might not be very good the first time, but that's okay, it'll get better. Like it might be painful, but that's okay, it'll get better. Like things like that. And so I didn't just going into it, like that's kind of the mentality. And then I think it's like once it's your first year of marriage, especially if you've been abstaining, then there's that excitement piece of like, oh my God, this thing that's been off limits is here. And then also just like exploring for the first time and like exploring like what things feel like in your body and having these experiences that I think can play into that kind of one, just like it's exciting and new, and then two, also less around knowing yourself and knowing much about um like being able to compare experiences to even know like, okay, how I feel with a man is the only time I've had this with a person.
Mm-hmm.
So this must be what's normal. So I think
Mm-hmm.
for me, like beyond that first year where it's like, okay, this is like a new part of our relationship, then it pretty quickly for me turned into a stressor. Like I'm very like worried about and stressed about like, are we doing it enough? Are we healthy? Are we good? Like, do we have what it's supposed to be? That like externally focused, kind of like, how much are we supposed to be doing it? Is it enough? Is he happy? Is it, like so much of that was part of it for me. And then I think, I could still like experience some of the biology of things, So then I'm like, okay, this must be what's normal. But I really struggled with the like organic wanting of it and the
Mm-hmm. The
like,
desire. Mm-hmm.
yes, the desire. The desire piece was hard for me and probably hard for him and probably played into his experience of it too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think for me, I didn't know any different. So I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know like now what I know, where it's like there's so little thinking that has to be involved for me now with my partner and like the desire I feel. But at the time, I had no idea that was something that could exist. So even like when I first talked to my therapist, like, oh my God, I think I might not be straight. I remember my therapist asking me, like, are you attracted to your husband? And I remember being like, I think so. Like, I don't, I, yes, but I think he's the only man that I'm attracted to. And then she was like, and then I think like with time, I kind of could come into more clarity around it. But that's how it was for me. I think the bi piece was safer because it didn't, like, that would mean I wouldn't have to change, like, it wouldn't be as big of a deal. I wouldn't maybe have to change anything in my life. And it was harder once I kind of realized that wasn't the case. And that that would also be untrue for me, like I can't keep living a lie kind of thing.
And that happened for you, like when you realized that it wasn't bisexuality?
Yeah, I think it was like probably in that first 6 months of me like really diving into all of this that I came more into like I kind of still had this question of like, but what if I'm actually a lesbian? Um, and I think working with you was probably part of me naming that more and more too. But it was kind of just like continuing with my therapist, creating the safety to like keep naming my truths, keep working with the gaslighter part, keep,
Mm-hmm.
all of
Mm-hmm.
that to then kind of get closer to that point. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the like responsible part of me was like, I was seeing my therapist. At one point I was seeing her twice a week. I got us into couples counseling. Then I found
Mm-hmm.
you eventually. So then I was seeing you. I mean, I was like trying to like do the work and
Yeah,
really was
you threw yourself
committed.
in.
Yeah, because I wanted to make sure I was like, you know, one, I care so much about my ex and I cared about our relationship and wanting to, do right by him, by us. Um, and then also part of what I chose was like I'm not gonna like even explore any actual lived experience in it. Like I didn't like go out and experiment or like date or anything because to me it was really important to like keep it kind of like clean and keep it to what felt like true and right for me and my values. And that meant I really had to do the work around trusting myself and my intuition, which honestly was probably really important considering my history and the gaslighting and all of that. So I think it was part of my healing. But I do think it was hard to be like, I've never had any experience with a woman, and I am eventually coming to say I am a lesbian and this is my truth.
Right. I mean, yeah. Like, I mean, there's so much integrity in that. And granted, people come into themselves in a million different ways.
Yes.
Mine was the opposite of yours.
Yeah.
So, but we all have our own
Mhm.
journeys. But yeah, I mean, so unbelievable. So just to
Mhm.
then come a little bit more into, so I
Mhm.
met you in 2022
Mhm.
and then we worked one-on-one. Then you did the Unbox Your Sexuality program and made some
Mhm.
community. Then you joined the Sapphic Circle, which was the ongoing community. So that
Mhm.
was 2022 into 2023, I think.
Mhm.
And so, but I met you in the fall of 22. Am I thinking right to say that by Halloween of 2023 that you like met somebody that is currently your partner? Yes, I
Yeah.
am. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember, I remember the texts and the picture of your costume and the text after you went to the party and all of it. Oh my gosh. So,
It's
I mean, so
so creepy.
wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it felt like we did so much hard work, like so much hard stuff. And
Yeah.
so thankful for my ex in that and how willing he was. And like, by the way, he said things like, we're righting a wrong, like you were coerced into this. Like
Mm-hmm.
this was, you know, because of the culture, the context, everything. Like you were coerced into something that's not true for you. Like God bless that man. But like
Totally.
we got to a point, we went through uncoupling. I called it lovingly uncoupling because that felt more fitting. We did
Mm-hmm.
collaborative divorce. We could do a whole episode on collaborative divorce. But anyways,
Mm-hmm.
then it came to that point where it was like, okay, we're both like feeling, we had done so much uncoupling. We were like, okay, we're both feeling ready like to kind of take some more steps of like separate, you know, experiences and stuff. And I was just trying to go to like, I reached out to a queer friend and was like, I just want to be like among queer people. Like, I just want to like have more of these experiences and have more community or whatever. I obviously there was part of me that was like hoping that somebody would be like into me because I was like, what if nobody wants me in the queer community? Like, I don't know. So, anyways, there was a part of me there, but there was a huge part of me that was like, this is just like me going to be among people and like have fun and all of that. And I went, and then I mean I had an amazing time. It was overwhelming in all the best ways. Like I, you know, had a lot of different interactions with people that were, you know, eye-opening, interesting, whatever. But I didn't know I was going to be meeting my now partner that night, who was my friend's then partner's friend. Like it was part of this group we met up with. And I, of course, was like so attracted to her, but also was just kind of, you know, had took like had a bit of a space for myself. And I mean, she just was like everything. I was so overwhelmed, but I also was like so into her. She, it's so funny now, like we tell this story, but she like asked to kiss me. I said I'm not ready yet. And then eventually I said like the words I used were hit me up in the new year because I felt like I wasn't ready yet.
Yeah, yeah, you were
Like
kind of, you gave yourself a timeline,
I
actually. I
did.
remember.
I
Yes.
did. I was like I'm going to wait till January.
Yeah.
Um and then the night ended and I was obsessed. Like I could not stop thinking about her. My best friend and I were, you know, like texting for days about it. I was, you know, eventually was talking to you and the group about it and all this stuff. And then it was like a few days after that Halloween party, and my friend like gave me the courage to text my other friend. And I was like, "Hey, basically like, can I get her info, like her number to like text her or whatever?" And she was like, "Do it," and sent me the number. And then I backed out, and then I was like, "I can't do it. I can't do it." And then she texts me, my friend texts me an hour later. She goes, "Oh my God, what's happening?" Sends me a screenshot, and it's a text from my partner saying, "I want to follow up on some podcast recommendations I gave Emily. Can I have her number?" Which is so funny. So then I was
Oh,
like, that's even better. I was like, give her my number. That's even better. So then she texts me. I'm like, "Oh, hey," you know, like playing it cool. But I was obsessing. I was like, I was so into her. And then we started talking and, you know, all of these things. And then I was like, oh shit, like things are things are moving like in a direction where I could see this becoming a thing at some point. Like I'm so interested in this person. It's not my perfect timeline, but then I was like, due diligence, you know, the responsible part of me, due diligence. I got to get on the apps. I got to like go on a few dates. I got to like do my
I remember.
responsibility to basically be like, I've dated other people and like make sure this is the person I want to date, you know, like I didn't want to be that person that like gets with the first person and then later is like, "Oh my gosh, like I didn't stop to think or whatever." I was just trying to do the right thing. But I also had people like, I feel like you guys were really like helpful and supportive in that. I had my like PT who was a lesbian was like, "Just why? Why do you need to like date other people? Like just let it play out." And I went on a few dates. Anyways, every time I was like, it's not her. Like, they're not the same. Like, I was just so into her. I'm still obsessed with her. I mean, it's been almost a
Oh,
year and a half, and I'm still like just so in love with her. But yeah, then eventually we tried to take it slow, which we did, especially in lesbian world. We took it slow, and both of us were like still kind of like on the apps and stuff. And then eventually, by I think it was like January, we were like, we both got off the apps, and then we were exclusive, and then it all progressed from there. But yeah, crazy. It felt like all of the hard work, all of that labor, all of that pain, everything, kind of like the fruits of that labor were coming true. And like it just so happened that my ex started dating someone around the same time and was experiencing like a lot of really good experiences in that, and like learning and growing. And like we all went to like the pride parade together, and like we had part of the pride together, all four of us. And like it was just like I just felt like so thankful for it to kind of play out the way it did. And then fast forward to now, like he loves her, she likes him, like we have great relationship. We went to his housewarming party recently, like it's
oh,
we're
so
just
good.
like on the other side of it. But I never thought I would be able to get here, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say, like, you really went through it and you did.
Mhm.
I mean, at least what I saw when you were working with me and then in the group, I mean, you just really did the hard work.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for your help in that. I just, yeah, like it was so invaluable. And having the group was so helpful. I mean, I still will, touch base with some of them here and there. And it's just, yeah, like such an amazing resource. Yeah.
So tell me now, here you are, you're so in love
Hmm.
and you're in your own space,
Hmm.
right? You
Yeah.
moved out, you got your own space,
Yeah.
and tell me a little bit about like what's happening for you now in your
Hmm.
life.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to be like out now. I mean, I'm not, there are still places like you're still always kind of coming out, but to feel like I got through, there was a period where I just felt like I had so many conversations to have and I hated it because it was just so much work. But like it's like now that feels like, you know, a a while ago, and now I'm like it feels like I'm like living my life, like
Mm,
living connected to my true self, living in a way feeling like more alignment and rightness than ever, which like to anyone who's going through questioning like their religious background or Christianity or whatever, it's like to me I just don't see how you can feel so aligned, feel so much rightness, feel so much truth, and that not be like, I mean, I don't personally like have a belief in like the God, the one true God and all of that stuff now, but like back then it's like how can that not be aligned? How could God hate that? How could that not
mm-hmm,
be, something that's
mm-hmm,
okay? And like the the whole trope, one of the big like I guess sayings that are taught when you're growing up in that world is like you love the sinner, you hate the sin. And so there's this piece of like even like I know there are people who think that about me now, and it's like I think I was striving so much or worried so much about people like having like belief in me and understanding me and my goodness. And actually I wrote down Alok, Alok Vedmed, I think it's
mm-hmm,
Vedmedin, like
mm-hmm,
queer poet,
mm-hmm,
very eloquent. I remember coming
mm-hmm,
across something they said around like their family. They were talking about their family and coming out and stuff. And like it being made about comprehension instead of compassion. Like,
Mm.
I think they said, why do you need to understand me in order to say I shouldn't be experiencing violence? And it like was kind of a wake up call for me around like how much I was striving for people to understand me, to see that I'm gay and that's not bad, or to see I'm gay and I'm still good. And that's very much like my childhood stuff. And then it
Hmm.
was like, I don't like, I know I'm good. Like I believe me. I know my truth. Like I I can want and expect for people to show me compassion because that's what they should do. But if they don't comprehend it, if they don't get it, it doesn't, like, that's on them. That's their problem.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there's all that to say, like, in the coming out process and everything, and being now on this side of it, where it's like my family knows I'm out. I know there are people who don't agree with it. I know they think it's wrong. I know there are all these things, and having more and more of that piece of like, but all of this feels so right. Like this feels so true, so right. It just, I can't live any other way at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's like a big part of now just feeling like I have this life and this partner and like this sense of being known more, and even like my friends knowing me more fully and truly. And all of that is like my everyday now. And that's so nice. It's
Mm.
so peaceful. It's so much more peaceful than I
Hmm.
used to feel. I used to feel a lot of anxiety.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of when we would talk about having self energy and
Yes.
how self energy is very calm, right? When you're
Yes.
in your
Yes.
self energy, it's very peaceful and very calm and very
Mm-hmm.
compassionate and
Mm-hmm.
curious and right. And it sounds like
Mm-hmm.
that's what you're saying. That's where you are. And it feels great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, so where can people find you if they
Yeah.
want to share,
Mm-hmm.
anything or ask questions?
Yes. So I have an Instagram. That's probably the best way for people to find me. It's
Hmm.
called Emily Off the Clock, or you can search for Emily Rich. But that's like me, where I'm like, I'm off the clock. So anything here is for education or entertainment. I'm not being a therapist, but also I am a therapist. So anyway, that's where people can find me. I do have dreams and ideas of like doing some other things in the future. And my partner and I have lots of like dreams and ideas of things we want to do. And so I would say like that Instagram is probably the best way for people to like also maybe see those things as they come together, and unfold. And then, like, yeah, if people want to reach out, they want to ask questions, I'd be more than happy to talk to people.
I love that. Thank you. I mean,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing all of this with this audience. And yeah, I really just can't say how moved I am by having been part of your journey and really witness to, yeah, like, I mean, your stories from your early childhood and some of those traumas and the ways that you learned to not trust yourself and how the gaslighting started, and then watching you go through this process of coming into yourself to the point where you're like fully in self energy, and that you're even here. I mean, I know there were many times where I said to you, like,
Yeah.
would you do a video? Would you do a video for social media or something like that? And you're like, not yet, not yet. So the fact that you're here and you were like a yes,
Yeah.
I'm coming on the podcast. I mean, it just is like, I don't know. It's like really, it's so beautiful. It gives me such good feelings. So
Yes.
thank you for
Oh,
all of your hard work and for sharing this with this community.
oh my God. Yes. Thank you for all of your help too, and for just what you're doing for the community. It's like so meaningful and effective and needed. So yeah, I just am glad. I'm glad you exist in the world. It was a very helpful Google search when I found you.
I love that.
Yeah, it was one of the most powerful Google searches I've had.
A Google search transformation. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah.
I hope to talk to you soon. Thanks for being here.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
Thank you for spending this time with me on Unbox Yourself with Samantha Fox. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps more folks find these conversations. If you're ready to unbox from something that's keeping you stuck, I would love to support you. You can find the application to the show at unboxyoursexuality.com. Let's stay connected. Find me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Lesbian Curiosity Coach. Give me a follow and join the conversation. Remember, we only have this one time through. Why not unbox yourself and let your true self shine in all its beautiful glory?